Hi, Anna. First off, can you tell us your name, where you're located, and the name of your business?
Hi, my name is Anna, and I'm currently based in Yangon in Myanmar. My business is called PlanPal, which is a planner and stationery brand that I started to help people, mainly students, to stay organized in a way that feels fun and personal.
Thank you for that intro. It's always exciting to hear about young entrepreneurs from different parts of the world, each bringing something really unique to the table. Your business sounds super exciting already. So let's first get into your why. Can you tell me about the aim, the goal, and the vision of your business?
So this sort of started when I noticed how many students around me were struggling with staying organized or feeling overwhelmed or not really knowing how to manage. And I totally relate to that too, and I still do. So I wanted to create something that didn't just feel like another planner with like some empty boxes. I wanted to feel kind of creative and almost like a little guide that like a little companion that helps you figure things out. So I just wanted it to feel like a supportive friend. And my goal was really to create something that can encourage the people around me, something that I personally would have wanted for myself. And so I'm trying to add like little positive messages, helpful tips, and things that will let people be encouraged to keep using it year round.
Oh, that's such a clear and meaningful vision. And I think having a strong why behind what you do is what really helps entrepreneurs stay motivated through the ups and downs. And it's really interesting to hear about your the backstory of your business. And so from your personal experience, what kind of knowledge do you think is essential to becoming a successful entrepreneur?
I think it's most important to be curious because when I came into this, the only thing that I would say I had knowledge on was like the artistic aspect of it. I didn't know I didn't really know anything about the marketing or like what it would take to actually make the product. So I think you don't need to know everything, but you need to want to learn. And whether it's something like figuring out how to run a social media ad on Facebook or talking to suppliers, there's so many little things that you will learn on the way, but it's really about like having the courage to start and I think you'll pick it up along the way.
A great perspective. I think it really shows how much there is to learn outside of just books or classes. And I think that real world experience can really teach you lessons that you can't always get anywhere else. And, not everyone knows everything once they just began. But thank you so much for breaking that down. So what about the skills or the traits or abilities that you would say are necessary to be a good entrepreneur?
I think something that was really important to me was listening and listening to feedback, even if it's hard to hear, because you need to be able to look at your product really honestly and in a really brutal way. Because I've changed so much of my planner since it's first started, because I would keep noticing things that like something wasn't working or someone gave me honest feedback that made me think, hey, I have to change this. So you can't be too attached to your original ideas. You have to be willing to change. And that's what I did. Compared to my first ever launch, I did a full rebrand this year because I just felt like I was packing it with too much information and even though at that time I thought that was what was most helpful, now I realize, hey, maybe this is too overwhelming. So I've had to let go of a lot of things and try to change the entire design to make it more like fun and more inviting, I guess.
Totally agree. I think that willingness to change really do set successful entrepreneurs apart, being able to look at their product in like an objective way, and whether it's, the communication that is involved, the creativity or consistency, or the determination to keep going on, it all adds up, right? So it's really cool to hear how you've developed and rely on those strengths. So let's now talk about your strategy. What tips, methods, or techniques have actually worked for you when it came to making sales and growing your business? This can be anything related to marketing, to product design, or anything at all. What would you recommend to young entrepreneurs like you when you were first starting out?
So I definitely tried out a lot of different small little things. For example, I did some small like promotional activities like offering free delivery to the first few people, giving these planners as gifts to like my friends from so many different schools so that it would kind of spread with word of mouth and trying to boost posts on like Facebook because I knew personally that Facebook was where most Burmese people shopped. And some other things I did was I signed up to a lot of local events, like little booths where they would have like holiday bazaars or stuff like that. I would sign up to rent my own booth, and it puts your product in front of real people and lets you kind of connect with them directly. So I think that part was good. And another big thing was really just showing up and like being a part of every single thing because I remember being on a school trip and sitting on the bus replying to orders and messages between like school activities. So you really have to be willing to put in that time and energy, even if it's not the most convenient for you.
Hmm. Wow, that's super valuable insight. It's really great to hear what actually worked for someone. And I think that makes things feel a lot more doable for listeners, understanding that, it's not always a smooth ride. There are going to be ups and downs, and you sort of have to balance things with schools as well. And yeah, I think your experience has made it so much more real and relatable for our listeners. And now let's shift to talking about impact. What kind of difference do you think that your business has made so far? And what kind of impact are you hoping to make as your business grows?
So far I've sold like a few hundred planners and I've also did a mini launch of like holiday bundle like stationery sets. So I've sold a few hundred of each, which I guess that's the numbers part. But I think the best part is more about hearing from people, like hearing actual reviews, getting text messages from both people that I know, like my friends who've liked it, but also from people that I've never met who said that, hey, this planner actually helped me like start organizing their tasks or made them feel more motivated. I think that's what really matters to me. So going forward, I want to grow that even more and reach more people and build a stronger presence online because even if it's only like 10 out of 50 people who really liked it, I think having something that's actually meaningful to people is what I personally like feel is most impactful. And I really want it to be something that's actually useful for people and not just something to kind of make money.
That's really powerful. It's amazing to see how businesses, and especially youth-led ones like yours, can have such a meaningful influence, whether that's on a community, a cause, or even just one person. And your story really shows how impact can grow with intention. And so for other young entrepreneurs, what do you think are some of the actionable steps that they can take now to bring their product or service to the people who need it?
So personally, what the sort of situation was for me is that I had to be realistic but also passionate because, for example, in Myanmar, the pricing for stationery cannot be too high because people just don't have that flexibility to spend a lot on that. So I had to bring the price down to it would be around $10, I guess, with the current currency exchange. And with that $10 per planner, that kind of it barely covered production and it definitely did not account for all the hours that I personally spent designing. So from an outside perspective, that might seem like I'm taking a loss. But for me, I realized that because I genuinely like love drawing, I loved like designing and formatting pages. It was something that I would have done anyway without the business. So it made it easier for me to keep going and knowing that this is the sort of pricing that people can afford and I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're doing something that you're not truly enjoying the process of, then if you have to make sacrifices with sort of the pricing aspect, you're gonna sort of, you might feel disappointed and frustrated. And so I think you just have to kind of be smart and with the materials that I worked with, for example, I try not to go overboard on printing and or like getting extra costs unless I knew that it was something that customers really wanted. So, sort of planning ahead, budgeting carefully, and knowing that your mindset matters the most and you're doing something that you actually like is what's gonna help you keep going.
I see. Wow, I think you broke it down in such a way that's really easy to follow and super helpful. Can you tell me about some of the tools or any sort of, I guess, platforms that you use in order to kind of do the marketing for your business and how that has worked out for you?
So, I wanted to have it with the budget that I had. For example, I used Canva. So that was completely free for me. I just used Canva to design all my posts. I also used Canva to design most of my pages and do all the layout and formatting. So that was really like affordable. It was completely free. I also used Procreate for my designs, like drawings, which that does cost an amount, but it's a one-time fee, so I could just use it for the rest of my life. And on Facebook, where I did like boost posts, I did have to pay, like, for example, $5 or $10 for 1 week of boosts. So I had to be very strategic with when I chose to boost it because I knew, for example, if most kids go to school in August, then if I started boosting it since May or June, then they're not going to really be interested in buying books right now. They're going to want to take a break and go on vacation. And so I had to maybe do it near July. So it was sort of a time where people were actually interested in buying something, and boosting that product would actually get the most engagement from people.
I think that's very insightful because I think a lot of young entrepreneurs, when they're just starting out, they're just expecting to kind of have everything be free and accessible to them. But in reality, going viral is actually not that common, and you do have to, sacrifice a little bit of funding to have your product be kind of reaching other people. And yeah, exactly like you said, there has to be some sort of sacrifice in terms of funds, but then it will presumably all pay off in the end. Um, so that's really awesome. And I think that is pretty much it for our interview, but sorry, and thank you so much for sharing your journey with us today. Um, I do have a question about where our listeners or watchers can find your business or follow your work.
So I post on Facebook, which is just PlanPal, but mainly I try to be more active on Instagram, which was planpal.mm. And I do have a website that's planpalplanner.com, which is quite a tongue twister, I've learned. But those are the main three sites where I like to post and try to promote my product.